The biggest piece of this work is starting with genuine curiosity. And I know that everyone would say, oh, we all do that. But I mean that very deeply, because this is working in climate resilience and climate adaptation. It's deeply understanding what is the client, what is it that they're actually doing in this place, on this particular site that they can't do someplace else. And the arena where what is sensitive of what they're trying to do to interruption, relocation, or replication. And with that, then you can start to answer questions. What do we have to be resilient to? For how long, for what purpose, and for whom? So that genuine curiosity continually in that exchange where what are they trying to do? And then what does forward-looking data and information mean to help them to understand and really think through from very early on, how is it that they're going to accept perhaps some interruption? Or if it's not acceptable, what are the measures that are going to have to be taken into design to then work around that? So that is the biggest piece of how to help, and it's got to happen early on in a design. I didn't choose it chose me. Really, it was a circumstance early in my federal career, so obviously before HOK, where I was working on a net zero energy project, and I was learning and watching, and I realized, oh, this project that's being designed for net zero energy will not be so over its expected design service life. And to me, as an architect, that was a very uncomfortable place to be. It was frankly gut-wrenching, and gut-wrenching. It wasn't about being wrong, it was about, I have never had to think through this. This is not the way in which people are educated. They're still not educated in this way. So how do you then start at a different premise of design and using very different information that's not based on historic content, but is based on forward-looking content, so that what you're designing is truly fit for purpose over time. So that was a huge shift for me as an architect, to then be in settings where I was the only architect asking, and being in settings of primarily climate science people or climate science adjacent, and having to learn how to understand, number one, what they're talking about. Number two, how is it to ask questions that are going to be useful, and the utility of what is the information, what's going to be actionable, and how do I carry that into the built environment. There are aspects that have changed, and particularly in my position of where I came from, the use of the terms and what they mean, and what they mean to different people and different groups. But I'll just take it back to the core responses to climate change. What are those things that would be affecting an owner's ability to, or a client's ability to perform their business? Those aspects of climate adaptation as a response. Resilience may be an outcome. It's not necessarily a guarantee, nor is it always necessarily a desired outcome. Something may need to, in fact, pick up and relocate. There's no resilience in picking up and relocating someplace. So being really clear, that's where I have a lot of gratitude to my former, and still I keep in contact with folks, those colleagues that are in climate science and in federal settings, being very precise, or at least more accurate about the kind of terms that we're using, so that there's not a misunderstanding. It's all about distilling things from a position where, how do we simplify this first? And that simplification was about safeguarding assets and mission continuity. And in the case now, it's not mission continuity, but business continuity. How does that work for a client or owner, so that you're looking at those sorts of settings so that you're going to, as best as you can, avoid that interruption or relocation or replication? Because really, nobody wants disruption. Nobody. Nobody, nobody. The key piece here is it's a front row seat to actionable science and the methods that are being used or developed for that actionable science. This is an arena where folks are not operating as activists, but what is pragmatic and what is going to work with owners, clients that have real property, that they're again trying to do something there, or this is what they're making their investment in. It is all about that alignment to use that science so that it is applicable, so that it can truly help the client to make those decisions that are in alignment with their risk management objectives and whatever it is that their investment strategy may be. Some of these measures that are used to respond to these kind of changes, they may be easy responses. They also may be very expensive. And aligning with that investment strategy or the ways in which they're going to manage their asset over time is the key piece. So all of that front row seat, particularly whether it's with American Society of Civil Engineers, American Society of Heating and Refrigeration Air Conditioning Engineers, or my institute, American Institute of Architects, or working on the National Climate Assessment. All of those, it's front row. What are we going to do about this the actionable science that we have, so that we can help make the most prudent decisions to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. And clients, whether they know that or not, that's the objective. What is it that they're actually not just exposed to, but what is it that they're actually sensitive / vulnerable to? You can be exposed to lots of things, but you may not actually be sensitive. You might be robust to it, or it's fine. But if they have not actually looked carefully at what they're actually sensitive and vulnerable to, and conducted in some form or another a resilience assessment, there are standards now that are available to do that. ASTM E3429 is a standard property resilience assessment. You can do that and have licensed design professionals, architects or engineers, to assess your property. That is a huge step forward. I am optimistic in certain aspects. I will be very frank. I'm very sober about these topics. These are not light topics. These are not topics to be an activist in for the sake of what's right. If you are watching climate science carefully, it could be more than sobering. It could be debilitating. There are 3 responses to climate change. One is climate adaptation, and that's the arena I work in because I had that sobering reality check. The other is mitigation, climate mitigation, which is aligned more classically with a lot of sustainability activities, but you're working to bring down those greenhouse gas emissions. And the other one is suffering. And that's what we don't often talk about, like out loud, but that is where there will be more suffering. And I am not interested in that because I care about the people that are in buildings, take refuge in buildings, wherever it is that they are, whether they own the building or not. As an architect, how are you protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the public? So the optimism is there are opportunities, huge opportunities in the built environment, and architecture is not the only discipline. Our colleagues in engineering, our colleagues that are in real estate, our colleagues that are in appraisal, our colleagues that are in law, all of these things, it's a huge positive place to get people to move in the same direction, yet time is clicking by and the suffering is increasing and the kind of devastation that we see. So I am just realistic and just continue to work. I'd rather be working on something than thinking about it. And hence that's why I've been working. It chose me. I didn't choose this topic. Our role is we do not make fundamentally the risk call. That's not in our standard of care. Typically, that's a bit beyond. What we are doing, though, is informing the client or owner of these are the things that we see that will be affecting this major investment that you're about to make that's in the built environment. And fundamentally, that client is going to be making the decision of whatever measure that they're going to take that is going to be in alignment with their risk management objectives. They may accept certain things. They may tolerate. They may have a very high risk appetite, right? Where I used to work, there was a low risk appetite and a low risk tolerance. Yet the reality as well is that not only does it need to be in alignment with their risk management objectives, it has to be in alignment with their investment strategy, because some of these things may be costly, Some of them may need to be fundamentally part of their asset management, and how does the architecture and engineering team help to bring forth those most cost-effective strategies based on what they actually can do.